In terms of the ethics of our dilemmas, we're a long way off reality for Starfleet Academy. Another one of those first steps towards it would be to realise that nothing in life, not even the Kobayashi Maru, is ever quite so simple as win-win, lose-lose. Plus, to think in such binary terms is to miss half the point. You can't win the simulation, but you can leave the simulator. Created, as we know, for the Wrath of Khan, the Kobayashi Maru was, at face value, the latest name for a perennial problem called Cornelian Dilemma, Pyrrhic Victory, or just Rock in a Hard Place. On closer inspection, however, it was precisely Star Trek's twist on the no-win scenario that is stuck like a catch-22. It is in large part the genius of that film. Anyone can face their own Kobayashi Maru without having to face the Klingons. Ask yourself, what would you do there and then in the room? If you don't like to lose, you might want to redefine your definition of winning before loss catches up with you. For Kirk and Spock, Kobayashi was an omen, but the rest it was Dickens. Ever since, the no-win scenario has featured in various iterations in the franchise. But the way things are, it's tempting to agree with Dahl's assessment of the test from Star Trek Prodigy. The only way out is chaos. I'm Sean Ferry for TrekCulture, and here are 10 things you didn't know about the Kobayashi Maru. Number 10. Scripting the simulation. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan went through several treatments, several drafts, several names, and several writers before becoming the movie we know today. As detailed in Star Trek the Magazine, Volume 3, Issue 5, what started as an outline by executive producer Harve Bennett in November 1980 called Star Trek II: The War of the Generations was then handed over to writer Jack B. Sowards to develop a script. Sowards' first draft of the 20th of February 1981, entitled Star Trek: The Omega System, featured a good deal of the now familiar. We got Khan, Captain Terrell, the Reliant, the death of Spock. It did not, however, include a simulator or the Kobayashi Maru. In fact, that first version of the script began with a deliberate beam down to SETI Alpha 5 on the part of Terrell and First Officer Chekhov. Also noted in Star Trek the Magazine, it was Sowards' second draft, dated 10th of April 1981, which included the simulator sequence and the Kobayashi Maru for the first time. In it, Kirk also suggested that the Kobayashi Maru might be a no-win scenario. Sowards' script just didn't quite work, however, so it was passed to Samuel A. Peoples, writer of Where No Man Has Gone Before. His version didn't work either. Facing their own Kobayashi Maru, Bennett and fellow producer Robert Sallin met Meyer at his home in late 1981. There, notepad at the ready, Meyer suggested making a list of their favourite elements from each of the scripts and treatments. "I'll write a new screenplay that incorporates all the things on it," Meyer then offered. And he did, though he never got credit, and his agent took him a long time to forgive him. Number 9. What will the neighbours say? The Kobayashi Maru is all about the neighbours, doubly so. First, it wouldn't be much of a test, nor have as much fun, if there weren't those pesky Klingons next door, even in the Star Trek Prodigy version. Second, according to an article in Starlog magazine, number 67, Jack Sowards, the man who invented the Kobayashi Maru, named the ship after his former neighbours in Hancock Park, Los Angeles. We're not sure if the Kobayashi family was pleased about that fact or not. Kobayashi is, in fact, one of the most common surnames in Japan. Though this is no doubt incidental to its use in Star Trek, Kobayashi can also be translated as small forest or woods. Maru has several meanings, such as circle, round, or the notion of correctness. The word is also sometimes used as a suffix in Japanese ship names, sort of like adding USS. Maru does not mean ship or boat, however, and Kobayashi Maru should not be translated even roughly as little wooden ship. In the neighbourhood or not, during the simulation, the Kobayashi Maru gives its position as 19 periods out of Altair 6. Altair 6 was the planet Kirk was ordered to in Amok time. Another no-win scenario of sorts. In that episode, Kirk disobeyed orders and diverted to Vulcan to save Spock's life. No Ponfar in Star Trek II, but Altair 6 was perhaps a little extra foreshadowing of the engine room demise. Number 8. Catch 2245? In canon, it's not known if the Kobayashi Maru, that is to say the Class 3 neutronic fuel carrier that bears the name, ever existed outside of the simulation. In fact, the Kobayashi Maru is never actually seen in The Wrath of Khan. Its counterpart is all but virtually absent from Star Trek 2009, save for a couple of screenshots. That version did get its own Eagle Moss model. In fact, wait a second. Through the magic of cinema, I've just left and come back again, but this is what the Kobayashi Maru looked like in Star Trek 2009. There's a nice shot of that there. Thank you very much, Eagle Moss. I am not to be trusted with money. Its registry is ECS-1022. The Kobayashi Maru from Star Trek Prodigy's Kobayashi had a different design, still with an NCC registry. The reference work Star Trek Star Charts gives the real SS Kobayashi Maru as Lost 2245, just outside of Klingon space. The catch there, aside from blurry non-officialdom, is that the date is now awfully close to Kirk's start of the Academy, 2252 by all accounts. It seems a bit inconsiderate to base a test for teenagers on the loss of a very real ship in the first place. Leaving only about 7 years distance to the actual event is practically dancing on graves. If hindsight helps, the Star Trek Enterprise novel, Kobayashi Maru, dates the loss of the titular vessel that inspired the simulation as much earlier, in 2155. The situation is largely similar to the parameters of the test, gravitic mine in the Gamma Hydra system, but in this case, the Romulans are involved. Number 7. He's already dead. Already. In Harve Bennett's very first treatment for Star Trek II, Spock didn't die. Spock, in fact, wasn't even in it. Little point, as Leonard Nimoy didn't want to don the ears in a movie again. According to Star Trek the Magazine, Volume 3, Issue 5, it was writer Jack Sowers, a self-confessed Star Trek fan, who thought that a good death might become the actor as much as it did the character. As Harve Bennett joked on the Wrath of Khan special feature, Inception, Nimoy's own ears went up when they told him the plan. There was one problem with killing off Spock. 2 words. Gene Roddenberry. In a twist that no one saw coming, like 2D Khan and the Mutara Nebula, Star Trek's creator leaked one of the scripts. Fans learnt about Spock's death as a result. Letters were written. Director Nicholas Meyer came up with a solution to throw off the fans for a bit, in the form of the Kobayashi Maru. As a writer, Trek historian, and co-host of Inglorious Treksperts, Mark A. Altman noted during a Paramount livestream in 2020 via CinemaBlend, the thing that's so brilliant that Nick did, he said, let's kill Spock in the simulator scene and everyone's gonna think, oh, it's all a publicity gimmick. Of course he doesn't really die, Spock's gonna be fine. As Meyer himself stated in Star Trek the Magazine, he was, in fact, sitting with Harve Bennett when he suggested opening the film with the Kobayashi Maru and killing Spock in it. I sort of thought I was being funny, Meyer added, but Bennett loved the idea. Number 6. Mode of cheating. Having taken over writing of the screenplay, uncredited, it was Nicholas Meyer who first suggested that Cadet Kirk might have cheated on the Kobayashi Maru. Harve Bennett, a dyed-in-the-wool Trek fan, was initially resistant to the idea that Kirk could do anything bad. Meyer managed to persuade Bennett, however, that Kirk should have his failings too. As Meyer went on to note in the Star Trek Magazine, Volume 3, Issue 5, we've mentioned a couple of times already, if you look at the heroes of antiquity and myth, they all have flaws. It's something that they have to overcome. Their flaws are something that they have to act in spite of. The challenge is not to defy your fate, but to endure it. That is heroic. For Meyer, Kirk, as the Greek hero, had to go from thinking he knows the answer to finding out, via the death of Spock, that he knows nothing at all. When you've had the kicked out of you, you're ready to start over, and with a little humility, Meyer concluded. No doubt the real point of the Kobayashi Maru is to have the grace to accept which way to lose. Or Kirk could have just played Star Trek Armada, or Star Trek Armada 2, in which the cheat code Kobayashi Maru instantly wins the current mission and moves the player on to the next. Number 5. How do you like them apples? In canon for Prime Kirk, we know little more than the fact of the act of reprogramming, i.e. he cheated. For his other half over in the Narada incursion, we got to see the trickery unfold. One man's commendation for original thinking is another almost identical man's academic suspension for violating the ethical code of conduct pursuant to Regulation 17.43 of the Starfleet Code. One apple in the Genesis cave, I don't believe in a no-win scenario, is another in the simulation room. In the script for Star Trek 09, dated November 2007, Kelvin Kirk was to get around the infamously impossible test in the USS Trainer by sleeping around. Gala, the Orion who made it into the final version, we find out was, in fact, a technician for the Kobayashi Maru. Still in the dorm room the day before, Kirk tells Gala that he has sent her a message, but that she can only open it tomorrow at 3 o'clock on the dot. Gayla obliges, opening the message at the right time in the testing control booth. It simply reads, "I'm sorry," and the script continues, uploads something and executes, and all the screens in here and on the bridge die, the system crashes. That's certainly one way of doing it. There was also a scene a little later on in which Kirk apologised to the wrong Orion. Of course, that had to be cut too. Number 4. Beta tests. Numerous beta canon works have depicted the no-win scenario. Julia Eckler's 1989 novel, The Kobayashi Maru, in particular goes into great detail as to just how one famous set of youngsters fared on the test. Preempting the now cliched of 1999, the novel also revealed that cadets weren't meant to talk about the Kobayashi Maru, so that the next candidate, couldn't plan ahead. Captains and senior officers could talk about it all they liked. Stranded in a shuttle in Eckler's novel, with rescue looking unlikely, Chekhov, Scotty, Sulu and Kirk start to tell their stories of the simulator room to pass the time. Kirk cheated, but only on his 3rd attempt. Cadet Scott tried to engineer his way around it with the deflector shields. Sulu refused to enter the neutral zone. Chekhov went all in and self-destructed his ship. McCoy and Spock never took it. In addition to the cheat code we mentioned a moment ago, the Kobayashi Maru also featured in the 1997 video game Star Trek Starfleet Academy, and got a nod in 2001's Star Trek Away Team. The 2007 Star Trek Strange New Worlds 6 short story Best Tools Available then told us of one of the few cadets to have beaten the scenario without cheating. Nog. In the most gloriously Ferengi manner possible, he simply asked the attacking Romulan commander, times had changed, to name her price and go press Latinum. Number 3. No win the Janeway. If you can't solve a puzzle, cheat, said Captain Janeway, channeling 7 of 9, herself probably channeling the collective's knowledge of Kirk's creative solution to the Kobayashi Maru. Well, cheating is often more efficient. The think tank of Think Tank was Voyager's own no-win scenario until Janeway decided to stop playing by the rules of someone else's game. You can hear the song in your head now, can't you? In essence, the initial premise of Star Trek Voyager was equally a Kobayashi Maru. Use the caretaker's array to get home, endangering the Ocampa, or destroy it, stranding your crew halfway across the galaxy. Neither was an enviable choice, neither was a win per se. Only one would get you high marks when you got home. A little later, Tuvok would put the wayward Maquis through their paces in his holographic version of Kobayashi Maru in Learning Curve. In Latent Image, the Doctor would face a no-win medical dilemma. The autobiography of Catherine Janeway, edited by Dr. Una McCormack, also revealed certain details about the Captain/Admiral's turn on the Kobayashi Maru as a cadet in her final year. Janeway apparently received praise from mentor Admiral Parvati Pandey for her grace under fire during the test. "I'd like to think I made her proud," Janeway concludes in the autobiography. 70,000 light years says she did. Number 2. Kobayashi's Colloquial. Since its inception in the Wrath of Khan, Kobayashi Maru has come to be used as a byword in Star Trek for, quite naturally, any kind of apparently unwinnable situation. On the supposedly inescapable hellhole of Rura Penthe in Star Trek VI The Undiscovered Country, McCoy told Kirk, "One day, one night, Kobayashi Maru." Stuck outside the Romulan neutral zone in Star Trek Prodigy's Masquerade, Admiral Janeway noted to Admiral Jellicoe, "We're facing our own Kobayashi Maru." More than just terminology, several episodes have by now used the notorious test in the title. Prodigy had Kobayashi, Star Trek Discovery had Kobayashi Maru, and Star Trek Picard had no-win scenario. Cadets must have had their own choice set of words about the exercise all the way up to at least the end of the 32nd century, with a gap it seems. By 2401, Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, Chancellor of Starfleet Academy, was also considering an unspecified update of the Kobayashi Maru. For better, and for much, much worse, Kobayashi Maru as phrase has also crossed the boundaries of reality to enter common journalistic, political, and even academic parlance. Kobayashi Maru moments and problems abound. Or there's always the title of a 2011 article in IEEE Security and Privacy embracing the Kobayashi Maru, why you should teach your students to cheat. Number 1. Paradox of Youth. Kobayashi, the Season 1 episode of Star Trek Prodigy, began with a basic premise, as writer and executive producer Aaron Waltke told Polygon in 2022. We needed to get Dal to realize that as much as he fantasizes about being in the captain's seat and ready for leadership, that maybe he still has to learn a thing or two. This led to the question, well, what is the greatest leadership test in all of Star Trek? The answer saw Walkie scouring through episodes and archives to find the precise recordings needed for Dal's holographic dream team. At one stage, Worf was due to appear in the simulation but had to be cut for the sake of streamlining. Gates McFadden notably returned as Dr. Crusher, however assisted by her Star Trek colleagues in a fine tribute. Were it not for putting his feet up, Dal, not yet a cadet, might well have beaten the unbeatable without resorting to reprogramming. Or perhaps we shouldn't be surprised. Often the youngest stars, like that one at the core of the ship, shine brightly in the most unexpected places. It's not all thinking outside the actual box, it's 99% persistence of perspiration. Dal still lost, even with all the help. In the end, the no-win scenario was always about finding the value of failure. Thank you very much, folks, for watching along. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed recording this. Thank you so much, Jack, who wrote the article that this is based on. Folks, you can follow us on the various socials. We're at TrekCulture on Instagram. We're at TrekCultureYT. I am at Sean Ferrick. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. We're at like 320,000 subscribers. Thank you. It's mind-blowing. Thank you so much. You are wonderful. You are awesome. Until I see you again, live long and prosper. If you find yourself facing a no-win scenario, know this: wherever you are in the world, you are not alone. Thank you so much.